inspection, search, and seizure at the GST. I think all of us are scared of inspection. The moment we receive summons, we are scared. Like what to do next, how we go further, what information to give and not give. I think you receive lot of questions. I just give an introduction. Sir has experience of about 30 years in the field. He's also a lawyer. He's a member of Litigation Series of ICI at Mumbai and Delhi. He's also authored a lot of publications for ICI, for WRC branch of ICI. And he holds a vast experience, be it VAT regime or the GST regime. He's also advising multinationals on the GST implementation strategies, and because we have to understand at multinational level, a lot of things have to be looked at. It's not just one, every look at corner needs to be done. So sir is advising on that also regularly. And we welcome you, sir, on behalf of WRC. Thank you so much for listening to you. Thank you. Just please have a some join. How? Thank you, Rajat. Thanks a lot. So, thank you, WRC, and thank you, Pooja, for the short but good introduction of me. Friends, it is always good to be back with the home crowd, as I call them. This is my home crowd, and WRC has been the playing field since the beginning. So I'm happy to be once again back with you all this afternoon. The subject given to me is interesting, well paying, at the same time challenging. So let's understand. My endeavor would be to take you through the provisions. And while I discuss the provision, some practical aspect would also be touched upon. Welcome, VD. At the same time, what would happen is there are certain case laws which would also be touched upon because there are certain peculiarities one would be wanting to address and which are practical questions which would come to your mind as we discuss this subject. And that also will be touched upon. This is very practical subject. So you will have n number of queries. I believe I would address majority of them, but always more minds, more fertile minds bring in more questions so that I possibly, if you could resist them, I'll take it up at the end because it is quite possible in the sequence of the discussion on the subject, I would cover majority of them. I mean, that is what my belief is. But there is always no dearth of questions. So let me just take you very 1 minute to see what is the scheme of taxation that we have. We have departmental audit under section 65, we have registration, then we have returns, etc. I believe there is a little, then we have scrutiny of returns, etc. in 61. So what happens is ultimately what is it leading to? Either drawing of the audit observations, there is a issue of DRC 01A, which is an intimation of tax liability, which can run into a drawing of the show cause notice in DRC 1, which will finally lead to section 73-74, where the actual recovery would start by way of computation of tax liability, etc. Inspection comes under section 67, which is the subject matter. Even inspection, after the inspection, what it leads to is section 73-74 only. So ultimately what we are reading or what we are actually heading to is section 73-74. So whether it is voluntarily payments made or whether there was a suppression, misstatement, etc., all provisions of section 73-74 would apply to even inspection. Let's go to the subject proper now. The power of inspection. search and seizure is given under section 67. I am trying to analyze each subsection, and while doing so, we will touch upon various aspects. The proper officer not below the rank of joint commission. Important. These provisions I picked up from the CGST Act. Parallel provisions are to be found under the state GST provisions also. The proper officer not below the rank of joint commission has reason to believe. We will touch upon reason to believe in a greater detail in the following slides. Important thing is, the officer not below the joint commissioner should have a belief, or he has a reason to believe, that the taxable person who is sought to be visited, his place for the purpose of inspection, has suppressed what? Any transaction of supply of goods or services. So that is a suppression of reporting of transaction, or the stock of goods in hand. So there is a physical stock lying at some location, disclosed or undisclosed, which is not disclosed as his stocks. So there is a suppression of disclosure of stock, or has indulged in contravention of any provisions of the GST Act or rules with the purpose of evasion of tax. Now read all the elements together cumulatively. He is a taxable person. He has suppressed either the transaction of goods or services or the stocks, or he has indulged into any practice which is contravening the provisions of the Act and the rules with the intention of evasion of tax. Now that is the meaning of subsection 1. Second part of the subsection 1 says, any person engaged in the business of, now he could be another situation which we are talking about. Any person engaged in the business of transportation of goods, storage or warehousing of the goods, which escape payment of tax. I am transporter of good, I am aiding the transaction which is escaping the taxation net, or I have kept accounts of goods, the premises, kept the books of accounts or or the goods likely to cause evasion of tax payable under the Act. I have records which leads me to unearthing of the suppressed transactions of sales or purchases, or supply or the receipt of the supply, which is likely to evade the taxation. It could be an accountant, it could be a consultant. The joint commissioner, coming back to the earlier side, the person who has conviction or has belief evasion of tax now authorizes a proper officer to visit the place of business. This is what is the section reading. The game starts now. There is a background working which is happening at the joint commissioner's level office, which leads to a belief that there is a case for suppression of transaction of sale or purchase of or the supply of goods or services, stocks, or other contravention with the intention of evasion of tax, or where there is a warehouse keeper or the transporter, he is aiding certain transaction which is leading to evasion of tax, or there is a place where there is material available in respect of the evasion of tax. If that is authorized, then the officer can initiate he gets the authorization to go and visit and inspect a particular place of business. Now, what is the joint commissioner to have reason to believe that there is either person to visit or otherwise. Now, subsection 2 says that these belief could be even pursuant to a visit already. Now, why it is this subsection 2 reading both? Because when I read section 1, subsection 1, it stated that he has to have a belief of suppression of tax or evasion of tax. Now, how does the subsection 2 once again saying either pursuant to a visit or otherwise? Otherwise, I understood there is a informant who has reported that there is a possible evasion of tax here, so he has an information of it. Now, during the course of visit, now this visit need not be confused with the visit which we was talking about section 67(1). It is a visit by a, let us say, a officer who has gone for registration purposes. To grant you registration, he has visited your place of business. He reports saying that there is a likely chance that this guy was doing a business since long and he has separated or evaded taxes. That kind of report. During your audit, the officer, your adjudicating officer or a proper officer has visited and he finds certain suspicion about it. He said, yes, this is a visit. I have got some suspicion about it. Now he reports to the Joint Commissioner. Joint Commissioner forms an opinion that yes, I believe there is a case to have a inspection under section 67. That is how these things is worded here again. Any goods, books, record which is in his opinion shall be useful or relevant for any proceeding. Now he says that there could be presence of goods or certain records which can be useful or relevant to any proceeding. He can initiate the visit. All these things are secreted in any place. That is what he believed. These are secreted, either the goods or the record, which are secreted in any place. He may authorize search or seizure of those goods. He authorized search of that place and seize the goods. Documents or books or things. Now, what is 67.2 leads you to? 67.2 leads you to 67 was inspecting. 67.2 talks about search and seizure of goods, documents or books or things. Each word is important. What is goods is defined. Documents under the Information Technology Act, documents include your digital records, your soft records, books of accounts or things. What are things? Is to be discussed. He will issue a notice in INV 02. So the officer, of course, if he were to do a seizure of the material, whatever it is, goods, documents, things, etc., he has to keep inventory of the goods, document, books or things which is seized by him. What is meant by inventory? Inventory is the entire listing. If it is goods, then he has to give description of goods, the measure of unit, what is the quantity, location, etc., etc., and then he has to make a listing thereof. In case of books and records, he has to meticulously write what are the books which are seized. If there could be some loose papers, now inventory thereof becomes challenging. So he would say that these are 100 pages of loose paper in respect of A, B, C items. They may not be possible to list down all 100 papers and what is it leading to. Because today he is seizing records to study, to go through it, to derive something out of it, to infer something out of it. So all these aspects he may be wanting to have a look at it at his convenient time. So he's just jotting down what are the loose sheets which is found. It could be even ledger accounts of the receipt and payment expected to be out of the dealings which have not been reported. So whatever it is, there has to be a clear listing. Then comes confiscation of goods, documents, or books or things. Now there are separate discussion of how do you confiscate goods. Now confiscation can happen that they can take the entire inventory and take it to their own godown. That is also possible. But at times it is difficult or practically not feasible to take it. So they will seal that godown to confiscate. If it is not practically possible to seize goods because these are large in quantity, etc., he may issue an order asking the owner or the custodian of goods. The custodian could be a warehouse keeper, it could be a third party warehouse, because that third party warehouse keeper would be the custodian of the goods. He is not the owner of the goods, but he is custodian of the goods. He will issue an order either to the owner or the custodian of goods to not remove or part with the goods except with previous permission of such officer. Although the provision does not say previous permission either to be in oral or in writing, but we would always expect such order as also permission for removal of the goods in writing. That will only help us in future, because otherwise one would be always alleged saying that without my authority you have moved these goods, which is against my order of non-removal of goods, parting of the goods. So it is always good to ask for a written order for removal of those goods. It is quite possible that the seized goods may be released on provisional basis on execution of the bond for the nature of goods and furnishing of the securities. So after giving bond as also the security by way of a bank guarantee, equivalent to the amount of applicable tax, interest and penalty payable. Now, if you want the goods to be released, you could execute the bond and the bank guarantee for the tax, interest and penalty payable for these goods and remove the same. Of course, the bankers would not issue you a bank guarantee. Depending on the banking relation that you have, you may be called upon to say your 10% or 15-20% as the margin money for getting the bank guarantee issued. So that would be a practical point. In case of perishable or hazardous goods, you may get a removal order on payment of equivalent to the market price of such goods with things to the amount equal to the amount of tax, interest and penalty, that is, or maybe may become payable, that is payable or may become payable, whichever is lower. Now that is what is a special provision in respect of the hazardous and the perishable goods. Of course, the provision also provides that the officer may dispose the goods in such manner as may be prescribed. Prescription is always by way of a rule. Now, if you have documents or books which are seized, how long can they be retained? Now, this can be retained by such officer only for as so long as they may be necessary. If you are able to say that the purpose of retaining these set of documents was to ascertain the potential loss of revenue. All right. Now you have done the computation. You issued me a show cause. Please release those documents, because I need to submit that and get the LC released from the bank. I have these documents which requires me to take delivery of the goods from the say transporter. My LR copy, you may give it back to me. So one will have to ask for these documents back when the purpose for which they were seized is already achieved by the revenue. Now revenue would say that, look here, I would want it because you are going to litigate. I would want these documents to substantiate at a future date. What is the practical view? That case, take a copy of all these documents, sign it as original. The taxpayer himself would sign it as original and give it back to the officer for his future reference. If need arises, may give a letter saying that this document you have given, return me in original and for these ABCD purposes, and the photocopy thereof is signed and given to you for your records and for future reliance thereof. Now, that is given, I believe the objective of both sides are met. That is how you have to come with some proposals, because it is quite possible that the delay would cause financial loss to the taxpayer. Now, authorized officer has power to break open the cupboard, etc. When he is into the inspection or search or seizure, he may break open the cupboard, almari, etc., where it is suspected to conceal documents, books, etc. So wherever it is expected that the books or records are secreted, such places can be visited. If they are stored in a locked uh, uh, cupboard, etc., they can be opened up. Actually, the officer requests you to open that lock, and you are supposed to open it for him. If you do not cooperate, he has authority to break open the lock. The goods seized and if the goods are seized and no notice in respect thereof is given within a period of 6 months of the seizure of the goods, it shall be returned. So the officer is being given 6-month period to issue a show cause notice of the seized goods or in respect of the seized goods. Of course, this period can be extended in a correct case. I am using the word correct case, where in a deserving case by another period of 6 months. At times, the authorized person, now here the authorized officer means the person who is authorized by the Joint Commissioner's rank officer to actually ultimately go and inspect, to do his receipt. He may ask the officer to go and purchase goods or avail services just to see what is the modus operandi under which the particular suspected taxpayer is behaving or operating. Now, in a case where such action was taken by the authorized officer, and now during the course of inspection, he comes in, he gives you the stock back, he gives you the goods back, he should be refunded by passing return of goods by cancelling the invoicing. The invoice issued needs to be cancelled because that goods are now returned to him and the amount is to be refunded back to the officer. Officer from where he has taken that money is not included here. It is quite possible officer should have withdrawn money from the exchequer's fund so that it can go back to the exchequer's fund. I do not know what practically happens. We do not know the other side of the story. Let's look at the heart of the initiation of inspection, reason to believe. Now, I have directly verbatim copied certain decisions and the highlighted observations of the honorable courts. There are n number of judgments under the Income Tax Act, under the Service Tax, under the Excise, or under the GST Act also, which interpret the term reason to believe. Now, reason to believe is not just simply that I have a suspicion or I have an inclination. मुझे लगता है कुछ होगा. There has to be something beyond, something more than just a mere intuition. Just because I feel he could be, he is a character of that kind, तो उसने कुछ किया ही होगा. No. There has to be a reason to believe, and that reason to believe is interpreted by various courts in a very, very structured manner, I would say. The words where the proper officer has reason to believe in section 67 of the Act suggests that the belief must be that of an honest and reasonable person based upon the relevant material and circumstances. If I am not dishonest or I do not have a good intention to initiate an inquiry against somebody else, it is not the part of a reasonable belief. I should have an honest and reasonable belief based on relevant materials and circumstances. Circumstantial evidences would also suggest that will also aid in forming sort of a reasonable belief of suppression of or evasion of taxes. If some material is available, like the handwritten notes or some diary notings which are available, we suggest that this person could be engaging himself into a transaction which are with the objective of evasion of taxes. Now, such diary could be what of the officer has gone to other place of business where he got the inspection done, some other sphere. There he found a notice in the diary of that person which suggests transaction with the other guy. That material can also lead to the visit of this other guy, gentleman. So there has to be a credible belief in respect of the material and circumstances. The satisfaction has to be of the proper officer, not below the rank of GC. Officer को पता चला, officer has to go back, inform his higher officials, make a report. Joint commissioner should have somehow inclined to accept those reports and findings for likely evasion of tax, based on which he will say that yes, I am also in agreement with you. Yes, there is a reasonable belief that there is an evasion possible. The proper officer should have reason to believe that a taxable person has suppressed any transaction relating to supply goods or service or both. If the information is such as leads the proper officer to believe that the articles of search are secreted in a place, he may thereby have reason to believe as contemplated under section 67 of the Act. Now, the authorization also have to be in writing. It is true that it is not necessary for the proper officer under the Act to state reason for his belief. The courts have also observed that it is not necessary that he has to write reasons for his belief. If he has formed a reasonable opinion that there is expected secreted documents, etc., which can lead to unearthing of the evaded tax, in that case, he need not jot down why and how he has come to believe, but that is sufficient for him. So, some notings are important in the internal records of the department, which gives him the comfort that yes, there is a reason to believe. Let's look at the another judgment which also helps us to analyze this term reason to believe. It is clear from the provisions of subsection 1 and 2 of section 67 that expression reasons to believe controls the exercise of powers under the said provisions. Therefore, unless the basic jurisdictional facts exist, the power conferred under subsection 1 and 2 of section 67 cannot be exercised. It is well established that the expression reason to believe does not carry the same connotation as, say, reason to suspect. Reason to believe is not equal to reason to suspect. This is what the point I am trying to draw here or draw your attention to. The standard of belief is that of a reasonable and honest person and not one based on surmises and conjecture. Just because that means this guy is also involved should not be the case. There has to be a reasonable derivation which leads to the fact that yes, there is expected case of a evasion of tax, then only I can do it. Just because I am trying to connect the dots loosely and come up with a proposal that let's inspect this place of business of this particular taxpayer, need not. There has to be a something more than just mere suspicion. It cannot be mere suspicion which can lead to a inspection or a search. It is open to the concerned authority to form a prima facie view based on the evidence that may be direct or circumstantial. In other words, the belief of the concerned authority should be based on some actionable material. Important words, observation, should be based on some actionable material that he has had an opportunity to pursue. The power to search in seizure power is an intrusive power because it is intruding in somebody's privacy or his business secrecy, which needs to be welded with utmost care and caution. The legislature has therefore consciously ring-fenced this power by inserting the controlling provision reason to believe. Very important observation. I would rather read it again for benefit of everybody here. The power to search and seizure is an intrusive power which needs to be wielded with utmost care and caution. The legislature has therefore consciously ring-fenced this power by inserting the controlling provision that is reason to believe. Very important observation, friends. As I said a while back, there are n number of decisions which has interpreted this term. These were some uh, latest decisions I have just picked up. If you go back, they would have relied on another 10 decisions. Go back there to 10, there will be another 100 available to you to explore. Since this is very structured exercise which requires everyone in the department side as also from the taxpayer side to behave in certain manner, and since reason to believe has been the subject matter of challenge at various courts, the department has also have thought fit to issue direction so that the field formation across country follows certain protocol for initiation of the inspection or search seizure proceedings, and while it is being conducted they follow certain procedure, and that is why they issued a guidance. Friends, I am going to share this PPT, so don't you take a photograph of all these slides, don't you worry. The instruction of 2021, which is issued by the GST investigation wing, has listed out certain instructions. This is reduced in writing. Officer should have justifiable reason to visit. That is, reason to visit is the first part. There has to be a DIN on authorization. Madam, Finance Minister has said on open forum that without DIN, you can challenge the proceedings as not authorized. So every notice which is issued or every authorization, sorry, I corrected, every authorization issued should have a DIN on it. Search warrant should be in the name of the person visited. If he is going to be visiting and searching a place of visit, it has to be in the same name. Now, this is coming out from various pronouns decisions where the search was at person X, but the what is the search warrant was issued in the Y. This happens because the business name or the entity and the search warrant was issued on the different names. So they have been instructed to take care that whosoever you are visiting, the search warrant should have the same name of the person you intend to visit. If it is visit at a residential premise, the lady officer should be there as a part of the search team. They should have two witnesses because ultimately they have to draw a panchnama for which they require two respectable person. Respectable person मालूम नहीं कभी कभार तो बाजू आजू बाजू का maid servant को भी लेके आते हैं. I don't say that maid servant is not a respectable person, but nonetheless they may not know the importance of the action being taken just because he is a person above the age of 18 with a sound mind. He is considered as a person fit to be a witness. I do not know how and when you can take objection of this person being a witness. But raising your concern normally suffice the objective of replacing that person with another person as a witness. At times I have observed the company's own employees are put up as witnesses. Nothing wrong with it because witnesses is a person who has witnessed the proceedings. That is the person who is known as a witness. His duty is to sign under the proceedings which he has himself seen or he's been witnessed that. So his objective is the, his presence is there. His scope of understanding is that much only. He need not know the law. He need not know the interpretation of the record which is being seized or which is being inspected, he did not know anything. He simply has to say, यहाँ पे मैं present था, यहाँ ये काम हुआ था. That's all. Nothing beyond that. But this person has to be of respectable inhabitants. Search officer have to identify himself and show search warrant before the initiation of such proceeding. He has to identify him, he has to show his I card and show the warrant. Does that mean he has to give Xerox of his identity card or Xerox of the search warrant? No. What is expected is to show. Now, what happens is when you understand that somebody is visited and he is shown the search warrant, सबसे पहला this person becomes blank. He does not remember who has signed it, who is the person in whose favor this search warrant is written. When the call comes to us as consultants or their advisors, we ask them, कौन आया है, कितने लोग आए हैं, अरे सर आके बताया और मिल लिया, कौन था? We do not know. So that is what is commonly observed, that these gentlemen become blank and they fail to even write down the person who has issued the authorization and and who are the person in whose favor the authorization is issued. So this is what is important, because they do not part you with the copy of the search warrant. All right. Now, this is part of the central government. They issued a guideline. Similarly, the state governments have also issued one or the other guidelines. The state of Maharashtra has issued one advisory which says rights and duties of the persons visited. I'll just see. Yeah. You have to bear with me with this. Now, this is also similar to the one which is issued. This is where you have two. Normally, the person visited name is printed there, and then the same is reprinted and handed over to the person when he visits. Now, he say to see the warrant. It also does not say that ask for a copy of the warrant. To verify, these are the rights of the taxpayer visitor. Rights of the taxpayer who is visited. He can see the warrant, he can verify the identity, he can, in case of personal search of the taxpayer is required, should be done with full regard of decency, etc. Friends, this is similar. I am sharing this also as part of the handout the participant, because this will be helpful, because during the VAT regime also similar circular was issued giving the rights and duties. Now, duties also includes that we have to provide him full access to the records. If the cupboard is locked, you have to open it and make it available to them for inspection. Help them to take the inventory of the stocks. If some technicalities involved in taking the stocks of the inventory, like let us say there is a large oil tanker in which the stock is to be maintained, one will have to assist them to take the stocks by allowing them to take the dip and then do the calculation based on the stage of the tanker, etc. about the volume of goods which is lying in the tanker. So all this facilitation is also part of the duty of the person who is visited. If there is a medical exigency, medical officer can visit. The children can go to the school after the school bags having been verified. उसके अंदर चिट्ठी नहीं जाना चाहिए पूरा. To contact lawyer or CA or tax practitioner dealing with the tax matters to assist him to explain the facts and material to the members of the search. Very important. We will touch upon whether the advocate or a chartered accountant can remain present and under what circumstances. But here there is a direct what we call access available to the tax consultant, advocate or a chartered accountant, to assist them to explain the facts or to whatever it is, the legal stand which is taken, or the position taken by the taxpayer. He can continue his business activities, etc. To receive messages, give messages. Now, what has happened is we have come across cases where the mobile phone and the laptop is taken, and he is not allowed to uh, even attend to the calls or the messages, etc. So this here it is very clearly mentioned that you are allowed to do so. So these items I have specifically mentioned it because these are the things which normally the officer untwist you by not allowing it. But when you see that we have the right, you can always say, look here, you put your hands up, say, look here, you have been asked to facilitate this. You cannot stop my children from going to school. You cannot stop my regular business. In fact, at the time of writing the Panchanama, the officer would normally insist to write, saying that normal business activity was allowed to be carried. So that later on, you will not take any objection saying that, look here, I was prevented to conduct my business, which has resulted into financial loss of rupees so. All right. Now, any other person present during the raid should be allowed to leave only with the permission of the authorized officer and, if necessary, after his physical search. It is quite possible when the search is being conducted, I have my visitors, my prospective buyers, my suppliers, my vendors who are present there. I was having the interview for my to appoint employees in my office. All these persons can be allowed to leave the premises after taking permission of the authorized person, that is the after taking the permission of the paper officer is visiting you. Now what happens is that the suspicion normally with the officer is that these guys will go out and alert the other interested party in the case, and that is why they may hold back the person from going away. Reasonable time of holding back this team is fine, but beyond which it, you can always raise objection to say that you have business with me because you have to inspect my premises, in fact, my records and documents. Why are you holding back the other guy who is just a visitor here for the ABCD purposes? He has come for negotiating the contract with me. He has come to understand the design which he has to execute for me for say execution of the contract or for manufacture of the goods under my instructions. Why are you holding back this, guys? So, in that be the case, you have to be firm in raising your concern, raising your objection before the officer. Now, duties, friends, I'm not reading every clause of it, but there are important clause I'm touching upon. You have to render all assistance to search party and in no way hamper the proceeding. What do you mean by hamper the proceeding? You should cooperate with them in allowing them access. Now, it is quite possible that you have some IT related safety or what we call validations involved, which do not allow access to certain information to all the cadres of your office. In that case, if the person is sitting on the laptop or PC of a particular, let us say a tax manager, he may not have access to every part of the records. You should be able to get relevant authorization from your IT team so that the necessary information is available to the raiding party or to the search party. That is what it says. So you do not try and put उसके काम में पत्थर मत डालना. That is all it says. You allow him to function smoothly, to cooperate with him, to enable him to extract data information that he is looking for. Now, to see the assignment of search and put his signature, I mentioned that as a taxpayer, you have authority to call and see the search document, search warrant. Once again, it is saying that you can search the assignment which is given to a particular officer and you have to acknowledge that you have seen it by putting your signature thereon. Once again, that means it reiterates that you have no right of taking the photocopy of the search warrant to identify all the places where the records or goods or this thing are kept. Now, to identify and explain the ownership of cash. Now, what is he saying? Explain the ownership of cash, books of accounts, and other documents. You can say that this particular cash is in respect of my other group company. You have to justify that how it is for the group company and not for the company which is uh, the subject matter of the search. Or this cash is my personal cash. I have kept here in my drawer. The office or the business cash is with my cashier, and this cash which is found in my drawer is my personal cash. You have to justify that why it is there. How do you say that you are the owner of the cash and not the business? The challenge becomes a little difficult when there is a proprietor of the business, and he wants to distinguish the cash of the business vis-a-vis cash in his personal capacity. It's quite possible that he has sold his personal jewelry and has got some cash which is lying there, or he has withdrawn cash from bank in the previous 2 months for household expenditure, is still lying here as 1 lakh of rupees here. One would say, क्या घर कैसे चला 1 महीना? That is all the counter that you can expect, but there could be some reason for that. So you will have to explain that reason. Or these books of accounts are not mine. These are memorandum register. This is just that this is nothing. These are not my final uh, purchase order, but these were inquiries. To justify why this record is your inquiry, not your pakka purchase register or your pakka sales order. Justify, or that justification of that register, because the order, when there are prospective orders, one would have negotiated them at X rate, Y rate at a later date. All these corroborative evidence, circumstantial evidence will help you to prove that, look here, this is not my actual purchase order book. These are my probable inquiries which I am trying to pursue. Some of them, majority of them fail. Some do fructify into a sale transaction at a later date. So all these arguments will have to be substantiated with some other documents to say that, look here, this is this. No, friends, here I can visualize certain things, but at the actual state, when you want to answer this, you will also have to go through further more information. एक बात है, सत्य है तो 4 जगह से जवाब देगा, असत्य है तो आप खाली स्टोरी बनाना. All right. Further, it says you cannot remove any cash, stock of goods, books of accounts, documents, notebooks without the knowledge and permission of the authorized person. If you have sale dispatches to happen, there is a stock here. He is undertaking inventory now of the stocks which is there in the godown. If you want to remove the stock because the tempo is hired and it is standing outside, it is causing unnecessary delay to the buyer of the goods, take the permission that so many tons of goods are now being loaded. Allow me to go because there is a time sensitivity for this delivery. Explain that, take authorization and allow to go. Document that you have taken his permission. How do you document it? Ask him to write and give you that so and so challan is being allowed to be removed. Take his counter signature because he is also in heat of things to happen. He doesn't have time to give you a letter saying that. You simply said allowed to remove the stocks. अपना चलन बना के उसके पे साइन लेके रख दो. Simple. Take it with time, date and time, because inventory is happening now. It is a live inventory which is being taken and you have removed the stocks. And then at the end of the day say ये तो पहले से निकाला हुआ था तुम्हारा stock. So there is a difference in the stocks which is as per books and present here. So that is why when you take the inventory, at the end of the inventory taken, take the starting time of the inventory, closing time of the inventory, and take his signature, put your signature there. Now, this challan also has a time, so one is able to prove that yes, during the course of inventory measurement, inventory taking process, this was already removed, and that is why the stock physically found was lesser than 30 books. You also have to identify every person which is there, whether he is part of your employee or consultant, whosoever it is, or he's an outsider, he's a visitor who can be allowed to go later on. Now, all these things are there not to encourage entry of any unauthorized person in the premises, not to conceal or destroy any document with the intention of preventing uh, yeah, produce or evidence. Important part. Not to conceal or destroy any document with the intention of preventing the same from being produced or used as an evidence before the court or public servant. Such act would be punished with imprisonment or fine or both in accordance with the section 204 of the IPC. What it's trying to say, do not try and destroy some evidence which can lead the search party to conclude evasion of tax. Do not do all things which can lead also to action to answer the question truthfully explain. Completion in premises and in charge premises refused to sign you. That reason, investigation officer or co-investigation officer may decide as the in charge of the premises at that point and as an authorized person to sign the warrant. What happens at time? The let us say the director of the company is not present, or senior officials of the company are not present, and when the search warrant is shown, there are senior management team is not present. So what it is, the officer will decide that this person seems to be a reasonable person, and he will take the warrant on behalf of the company and the proceeding would. Of course, that person is allowed to communicate the visit to the senior management team, so that what happens is that they may be able to come back to the office, or they may be able to communicate and take appropriate step which is required in the proceedings. If he refuses to answer a question on a subject relevant to the search operation, he shall be punishable with imprisonment or fine, both under section 117. What are we trying to say? If he refuses to answer a question which is subject matter of the search, or which is possibly this question could be legal question or question on facts. The person to be answering this question should be very, very clear. What is his knowledge about the facts, and what is his status of understanding of the provisions of the law? If, let us say, a storekeeper is asked the provisions about place of supply, he'll say, sir, I do not know. My job here is to receive the stocks and deliver the stocks. You want to ask me any question on that? I am prepared. That is the knowledge that I am about. That is the scope of my work. That is my work profile. You cannot ask me what are the terms of the contract in respect of, let us say, installation of the machine which is dispatched from here. That is my marketing team and my management to know what were the terms. I am here with a delivery challan and a tax invoice allowing me to dispatch the goods and mention in the e-way bill the part B of the e-way bill about the transporter's detail. That is what is my profile of the work. You cannot ask me beyond that. So one has to be very clear. And if he is asking a CEO about the time of delivery of particular goods or the dispatch of the truck, he may not know. He is not onto hands-on knowledge about everything happening down below. He would be able to say, this is the policy matter of the company. We have set a protocol here. SOP is there. This is how my team is expected to function. That is what is given. For this particular case, we have consulted ABC firm of chartered accountant or a lawyer for a what position which we take, which is a legal position that we have taken. We have obtained oral or written opinion. That is how we are functioning. That's all. I am not a tax expert to know everything about the provisions of the act. You ask me the modus operandi of the company, what is the business model? I know. I can answer all this, but you cannot ask me nitty-gritty of the tax provisions. I can come back to you after checking with my team. That is how the CEO would answer. A tax manager would say that I am asked to answer the information about how do I compile my return, where is the data coming from, what I do with the data, how do I cross check the data with the provisions in respect of, let us say, RCM payable, in respect of reconciliation of ITC, to be matching, etc. That is how I do it. This is the method in which we do the cross charge. This is the method of my ISD distribution. This is the valuation method I adopt for valuation of my supplies. These are the identified party based on which we do the RCM payment. Now, that is what I can answer as a tax officer. I mean, the tax manager in the organization. You cannot ask me as a tax manager why company has taken this position in the legal, because the tax manager will say, look here, I am a junior management. I am asked to take this particular stand and classify these under these HSN, beyond which I may not know. My legal head would know of the company. One has to decide what information I can share at my level. And that is what is going to help you while the summon and the when summon is issued and the statement is being getting recorded. Friends, so this is what was it. So coming back, can a chartered accountant or an advocate remain present while the search is on? We just mentioned, or we saw that the rights and duties of the person visited, the state of Maharashtra said that you can call your tax advisor, CA, lawyer, or a tax practitioner to assist the answering of the question regarding the legal issue or to explain the data, because at times or majority of the time the compliance is done by a outsourced agency, maybe a chartered accountant's office or a tax practitioner's office, who is called upon to explain how is data compiled or how is the 99C was compiled and finally reconciled with the audited books of accounts. The question here is, can he remain present at the time of what we call is at the time of writing the statement? Before that, I just missed out, the heading was a little different. Panchanama will have two witnesses made, etc. So there is no conspicuous missing of the mention of the presence of the chartered accountant or consultant or advocate during the search. No legal right exists to allow search and seizure operation in presence of an advocate. Mrs. Subhash Joshi versus DGGI. There is no legal right. So during the search and seizure, as a legal right you cannot ask. However, for a limited purpose of explaining the information, limited purpose of explaining the legal stand which is taken, the presence of the advocate or a chartered accountant is allowed. At the time of questioning or at the time of writing the statement or taking the statement of the management of the person who is visited, the CA or an advocate cannot remain present. So another couple of decisions on the same. What I am trying to say is, the objective of search is to know directly from the person who is visited what is the modus operandi. Actually, the cross questioning which would happen during the statement taking, they do not want the advocate or a chartered accountant to act smart and influence the statement getting recorded. They want that the statement are true reproduction of the actual things happening, and that is why they do not want, because even if one were to say that I remain present as a chartered accountant in the cabin where the statement is being recorded, I may not say anything, but I simply say, answer this. No. I will simply nod my head to give hint to the person who is getting the statement recorded. That also they do not want, because how the officer would raise the sequential question is based on the answer to the earlier question, that he will frame the next question and cross question you or counter you to the fact that is available, which is unheard, or which for which he has a some background check which is carried by him earlier. So what do you do practically? Before the person goes for statement recording, you inform him to be non-committal. Simple. This is a legal position. I will have to refer back to my notes. I will have to check with my legal advisor. This is what business have done it. Beyond which day-to-day things I will have to cross-check with the team, operations team. He will raise consequential and sequential question on that to say that आपको कैसा पता चला otherwise? क्या business में चलता है आपको ध्यान में नहीं रहता है? Yes, but I have I have trust in the people that I have employed, and certain level of decisions are allowed to be taken by my lower authorities or my lower ranking staff. If that be the case, you cannot be objected to have answered incorrectly. Mind you, the statement which is recorded is going to act in favor of you or against you in the later proceedings of adjudication, deriving the conclusion of the search proceeding, which may result into drawing of the show cause notice or to appeal, etc., etc. One important thing, what is being secreted? What is the meaning of the word secreted? The meaning of the term secreted can be understood to mean anything which is concealed. And in those circumstances, even if the documents are not kept at the designated places where the same ought to be kept in the terms of the Act and the rules, and in case circumstances exist where the absence of the document is with an intention to conceal them from officers, the same can be termed as secreted. Either they are not kept in the usual places where one is expected to keep. You have your normal software in which you generate all your invoices in the same. एक के अंदर एक दूसरा टैली खुला हुआ है पीछे, वहां पे ये रिकॉर्डिंग है. That is secretion. You have your normal delivery challenge duly stamped available with you, placed at a normal shelf of your godown. But there is another set of documents which are kept inside, not at the regular place. So these can be termed as document secreted. Normally you keep your normal records at your office, but these particular set of documents you are keeping at your home. So your home becomes the place where the documents are secreted. The word secreted plainly implies to be hidden or not disclosed to the revenue authorities for their purpose of making a fair self-assessment. Now, whose self-assessment? Self-assessment is mine actually. But here they are referring to self-assessment being made by the authority. So they have to be not hidden. They are hidden in a way which does not allow access, free and simple access or fair access to the person who has visited. We came across the terms goods, documents, books, and things. So what are they? Will the cash be seized? Cash is excluded from the definition of the term goods. Goods does not include cash. And the same falls squarely within the definition of the word money as defined in subsection 75 of definition proviso, clause 75 of section 2. The word things appearing in section 67 does not include money, and therefore action on the part of respondent, that is revenue, seizing the cash was illegal and arbitrary. So cash is not things. Cash is money. Money is not goods, so you cannot seize the cash. You can count the cash, take inventory of the cash, but you have to return the cash. Cash cannot be seized. Even if the revenue has a belief that ये cash अभी छूट गया हाथ से तो कल जाके tax नहीं भरेगा, even if they have certain inclination about it, that this cash is available to me today, let's get it deposited and this will be available to me tomorrow for adjustment of my tax payment, still they cannot seize it. They may ask you by sort of undue pressure to deposit in the bank, and that bank account they will want to what you call attach at a later date to secure the tax revenue, but they cannot seize the cash. Delhi High Court held that the matter is covered by this decision and so and so, and they say that cash cannot be seized. Can the other assets like car, mobile phones, or laptop be seized? During the course of inspection, car and mobiles were seized in this particular case. The High Court held that the entire exercise of seizing the car and the mobile phones of this petitioner is nothing but a farce. Look at the observation of the High Court. Is nothing but a farce under the guise of exercise of statutory powers without obtaining the necessary authorization, and a blatant show cause of brute force by high-ranking officers in gross abuse of powers. In a given facts, without taking special authorization for seizing of the car, mobile, etc., it is quite possible that car was having the goods which is suspected to be unaccounted for. Mobile was having data. Mobile was having chat discussion which can lead to the conclusion that there was a clandestine removal of stocks or unaccounted provision of service, etc. Now, all this information, if they want, they can download the information directly. They can get the stock unloaded from the car and get the stock seized, or the information can be taken as a digital information from the mobile phone or the laptop, but they cannot seize it. One can take objection to say that seizure of these articles may hamper my regular business otherwise. You can take objection to that also. So look here, by not allowing to use my laptop or not allowing access to my email business, or it is hampering smooth like that, even if I do not use a single purchase order because of, but that is hampering my smooth conduct of business. I can take objection to that. They cannot seize it. They can have access to my laptop, take whatever data they want. Nowadays, what is observed is they come with 1 TB to 10 TB kind of external drive attached to your server, take the entire backup for, let us say, last 5 years, 7 years, whatever is available. Ask you for the cloud connectivity and try and see what is there in your cloud. They can ask you to download the data from the cloud also, because so many places you do not have physical server, but everything is on the cloud. So they access data from the cloud as well. So that is what it is. So you cannot ask him to impound his laptop and say that I want it. Of course, there is a strong reason otherwise to have the laptop impounded. There has to be a specific authorization there too. Otherwise, that will be a brute force which is unduly exercised by the officer. That is a wonderful observation I came across. I said this would be important at least for reply to the show cause. Now, attachment. There is a guideline which is issued by the commissioner, by the what we call CBIC policy wing, which has said that commissioner must form the opinion that provisional attachment of the property is necessary. Why I am saying this? This is the part of search and seizure which happen. My friends, other speakers would be taking up various aspects of the entire litigation. So I am not touching on those areas of what is summon, etc., because there is other time allotted for you to go in greater detail than what I can take it in my limited time. So what I am trying to touch upon is some larger issues here. The commissioner must form the opinion that provisional attachment of the property is necessary for the purpose of protecting the interest of the revenue. That means भाई tax ये नहीं उसको allow करेगा बैंक account में से तो लेके जाएगा कर. ये प्रॉपर्टी को अटैच नहीं करते, कल जाके ये लैंड बेच देगा. Just to protect the tax, which is expected to be made payable by this particular taxpayer, and is suspected to be uh, either withdraw the cash or transfer the cash tax balance to the other bank account, etc., or dispose of the assets, he may take the attachment thereof. The basis be duly recorded on file. No, file. It is to be recorded on file. Not that he has to share with you what is his concern. Why he is exercising the attachment. Power of provisional attachment must not be exercised in a routine or mechanical manner, and careful examination of all facts of the case is important to determine whether the case is fit for exercising of the attachment. What does that mean? Look at the background of the taxpayer, whether he has been otherwise a regular taxpayer, what is his assessment history, whether in the earlier ADT01 notice was any substantial or revenue leakage was found or reported, what is his normal cycle of business, is it going to be that he is going to divest with the balance which is available. At the same time, when the attachment happens, the taxpayer also has to defend that. He has to say that, look here, I am not a fly-by-night kind of a operator here. I am a genuine taxpayer with a history of so many years of proper compliance of the Act. Yes, you have a reason to believe, and for that reason you have come here. You have a suspect that, yes, this is the issue for which there could be tax liability. Let us say you have claimed export of services, but I believe that is the intermediary. RCM is payable, export of service is not there. Yes, there is a legal issue. Fine. I have a legal case. I am not going to run away. I am having this establishment. This is the investment I have made in my business. I am not going to run away with that. Please do not attach and disrupt my business. The first attachment is normal to your current account. That reminds me, attachment to a overdrawn account cannot be made. There are cases where CC account which is overdrawn is also attached. मेरा पैसा आ रहा है वो भी नहीं आएगा अंदर. Now there are no practical issues. What time do I have? 1:47. Do I have 5 minutes? Okay. बहुत दिन के बाद मैं बोल रहा हूँ ना. Now DRC03, you can be making payments voluntarily. When you have admitted the tax liability, you pay the tax and interest. You select in the drop down 73.5. In view of section 73.8, there is no penalty payable if you pay a tax with interest under section 50 within 30 days of the issue of the show cause. Otherwise, it will attract 10% because it is voluntarily payment. Now, it is not a voluntary payment, but the officer is making you make the payment, DRC03. One will have to see whether it was under coercion or duress. What were the circumstances which will enable the taxpayer to prove that this was under coercion? One simple example. रात को 2 बजे बोलता है DRC03 ऑफसेट करो. You can always say yes. Now you are fed up. Morning 11 o'clock they have come. The whole day they have cross questioning you today. Now in the evening they realize that yes, इसको DRC03 में पैसा भरेगा तो ही मेरा जान छोड़ेगा ये. रात को 3 बजे आपको बोलते हैं pay 1 crore rupees. Instead of making payment early morning next, if you are in a way convinced, make the payment in the midnight. That helps you to prove that this was under coercion. Make him to write the statement. When he takes the statement and he asks you to admit the tax liability, when you write and sign it, sign with the date and the time, which will say that I was made to write the statement in the wee hours of the day where I am expected to be sleeping or I am expected to be resting, or these were the circumstances which makes me to take a stand at a later date to retract my statement saying that under the coercion I wanted to buy peace. इसको जान छोड़ो, कल से मेरा धंधा तो चालू होगा, इसको यहाँ से जाने दो, 4 दिन से बैठा हुआ है, अभी तक मेरा स्टेटमेंट नहीं लिया, still inquiring every day evening, he's sealing my premises, going back, tomorrow morning he is coming back and he's starting with the bombardment of question, heap of data is called for. My entire team, accounts team, my tax team is now only engaged in providing information for last 5 days, 5 years. I want to get rid of him. That is what the situation that he will take you to. At that time, you have to be very clear under what circumstances all this led to. If you want to retract this statement at a later date, the building of this situation would help you. Of course, I am not to talk much on all this thing. You have made payment under protest. Please mention it in DRC 03 that this payment is made under protest. The officer will say, in pursuant to the notice issued under section 67, you made this payment. That is what short words he will suggest you to write. Write down that this is under protest. And moreover, when you are asked to give the copy of the DRC 03, make a covering letter and make it very clear that this amount of tax is paid under protest. Being a good corporate citizen who would want to be on the correct side of the law and to buy peace, I made this payment under protest and I reserve my right to contest at an appropriate forum. In adjudication is also appropriate, High Court and Supreme Court is also appropriate forum. Write it very clearly. At times, the DRC 03 does not mention under protest. Still write a covering letter and do it. What happens is, at times you do not write that it was under protest. You do not register your non-acceptance of the liability, and then at a later date, after long thought process, after taking advice from 5 people, you finally say, इसको तो contest करना पड़ेगा. At that time, the courts will take a different stand saying that you have not communicated anything earlier. In that be the case, you will be not allowed to say that this is a payment made under protest. Of course, this will have its own repercussion in your adjudicating to appeal proceedings. But of course, if you are correct, even after the adjudication is done, even after the payment is made, you may be successful in getting the refund of the excess tax paid, and refund application should be filed as tax wrongly paid. Let him reject that application of refund, go in appeal against that and win it. Now, at times the payment is made for various years. 25 lakh, 18, 19, 25 lakh, 19, 20, 21, 22, 25 lakh, 25 lakh इधर भरा, 1 crore पैसा भर दिया. Now, when the actual working happens, 1920, you have no liability to pay. Payment is payable only on 2021. That time you were not having any correct information into which year what liability would arise. So you were asked to pay 1 crore rupees, you paid it in the 4 different years spread over 25 each. And now you realize that 1920 में कोई पैसा नहीं है. What is the fallout? Now where SSE made bona fide error in DRC 03, because as such what happens is there is no provision for rectification of DRC 03 offsetted. Unlike the VAT in the state of Maharashtra, I can say there was a module available whereby you apply for it. The officer was allowing access to rectify the challan with appropriate audit trail which the department has ensured. Here in GST there is no mechanism. Portal does not allow rectification of DRC 03. So what happens? You have to go to the court to say that look here, I could not do it. Now that is what this Bombay High Court has stated in this Rajesh real estate decision. Mind you here. If the officer in his adjudication allows you credit for that particular challan, irrespective of the period mentioned, which they do practically, please write to your appropriate officer, nodal officer, to say that this challan is given credit in against this year, so that this credit may not be given to me in future. This will clear your bona fide. Because action of the who had done the search or who is finally done the assessment would be action at his end. My writing to my nodal officer saying that this challan is appropriated toward this year would prove my bona fides. Now, whether it can be termed, the payment made in investigation can it be termed as an ascertainment of tax? Answer is no. Mere signing the statement admitting tax liability and making some payments during investigation cannot lead to self-assessment or self-acceptance. I'm just giving you little hints so that now we have concurrent jurisdiction, but that concurrent jurisdiction does not mean that you have everybody coming in going out. For the same subject matter, other person cannot do it. Section 6(2)(a) and B sub clauses are of importance. I am not going into detail. Now we would want to know what is subject matter. The proceedings under section 67 by state officer reference to receipt of material from a supplier, DGGI initiating inquiry of this is the example I have taken, or inquiry of separation of transaction and clandestine supply by the petitioner. There were two different subjects for which two separate parallel proceedings were initiated. One by DGGI, and initially there was already a state officer who was already investigating. The DGGI came up with the another subject with अलग transaction, अलग modus operandi पे था. Now that is say these are two different subject matter. Parallel proceedings can be allowed. Thank you very much for your patient hearing. I do not know. Management will not allow me further time. Thank you very much.